Hey guys, what is up? I've received a lot of requests from you guys to cover RabbitMQ, and here I am with a video on RabbitMQ with Golang. And in today's video, we're building a small project example which will be a producer in Golang and a consumer in Golang, which is basically the producer is going to send some events on the queue and the consumer is going to consume those events, and the queue will be running on a Docker container. This will be actually RabbitMQ running on Docker container. We'll use Docker Compose file here. So this is what we're building today. Very small code example, but then it's very important to be able to understand RabbitMQ. I'll start with the basics, okay? And so this is the first video. We will just cover basics of RabbitMQ, and then we'll build bigger stuff as we go on. So what is RabbitMQ? RabbitMQ is a reliable and mature messaging and streaming broker. Now that sounds very similar to Kafka, right? But what I want to tell you is that Kafka and RabbitMQ, they do the same job, but Kafka is way more complex, and using Kafka in smaller applications would be a complete overkill. So if you're expecting like just a few thousand users, or probably even up to 100,000 users, just use RabbitMQ. It'll be just good enough. And Kafka would be definitely an overkill if you're just using it for a very small application. Okay, so now, especially if you're not very experienced with Kafka, because it has a lot of features, right? Now, if you go to the AWS or website, what it says is that RabbitMQ, the producer, sends and monitors if the message reaches the intended consumer. On the other hand, Kafka producers publish messages to the queue regardless of whether consumers have retrieved them or not. So you can think of RabbitMQ as a post office that receives mail and delivers it to the intended recipients, whereas Kafka is similar to a library which organizes messages to shelves. Okay, that's the architectural difference. And if you look closely, you would notice that RabbitMQ allows for low latency and complex message distribution, whereas Kafka is built for high throughput. Right? High throughput basically means if you are working with millions of events, Kafka is the right place to go. So yeah, so that's the difference. Otherwise, they do like very similar stuff. But if you want something more robust, obviously you'd use Kafka, because it has like Zookeeper and Craft protocol and all of that stuff. Like Raft protocol, using Raft protocol, you have like Kafka Craft. Right? So you have all of that. Now, what we'll do is like I said, we'll be building this. So let's quickly get started. Before we start building, just want to take a minute to tell you that this video will be part of the 54 Killer Golang projects, and this is where we also have the Kafka Golang video, which you should watch because it has complete basics of event-driven programming. So if you don't know how that works, how queues and streams and all of that work, this video is must watch. And on this channel, you also have 50 Rust projects. Now the thing is, I've organize these projects in the increasing level of difficulty. So if you were to learn Golang, start from the beginning to the end, you would learn Golang really well. Similarly with Rust. And I also have system design and technology architecture course on my channel. So make sure you subscribe and share this with your friends, because all of this content is for free, all of this awesome content, and you'll get to build really good killer projects. All right, now let's get started with the code. So I'm not using my usual PC, as you can see. It's because I'm in a virtual box. So I'm using Ubuntu in a virtual box. And the reason for that is whenever I run big containers, like the one for Kafka or something like RabbitMQ, my containers go out of space when I'm doing that on WSL. As you know, I use a lot of WSL on top of my Windows. So this is why, just to avoid that problem, I've started using VirtualBox, because now my containers don't run out of space on VirtualBox. I haven't solved that problem yet with WSL. In case you know a solution to that, please put it in the comments below. I've tried everything, like even like putting the size for the container as well. When I'm running the container, still it runs out of size, because I think it's like a constraint put on by WSL itself. Anyways, if you have a solution, do let me know. Till then, I'm using VirtualBox. And in case you use a lot of WSL, it's a reminder to you as well. You might face problems while running RabbitMQ and Kafka containers on WSL. So try using a VirtualBox. All right, so here what we are going to do is we're going to create a directory for MQ, YT, and 1, because I'm going to create like 2-3 videos for RabbitMQ. So this is just the first one, because I'm going to cover it from multiple angles and multiple concepts. This is just the first one, so that's why I've named it like 1. And I'm going to cd into it RabbitMQ, okay. And here I'm gonna go mod init github.com/Akhil Sharma 90/go rabbit. Yeah, so really sorry, because actually my fingers are not used to this big keyboard, because since the past 2 weeks I've been using like a 60% small keyboard. I bought this like white keyboard, okay, and then I put ceramic keycaps on top of it. So there's this company called Serra Keys, I think it's called Serra Keys or something like that, and they sell you really nice ceramic keys you can put on your keyboard. So I've started using those. And once you start using like a 60% keyboard, it looks really awesome, but once you start using it, it's very difficult to come back to like a full-blown, like a full-size keyboard like this. So that's why I'm just having this trouble. So I apologize if I make a lot of typos today. So now we're just going to open this up in a code editor, and I'm going to create my Docker compose.yml file before I do anything, because this is where the RabbitMQ will run, right? So I've just copied and pasted the RabbitMQ file, and you have these services. So you have the RabbitMQ service. As you can see, there's nothing below it, so there's the only service that's running, RabbitMQ. And I'm using this image, right, from the Docker Hub, and I'm passing the username and password as guest using the environment. And I have a health check service. Every 30 seconds is checking if this is it's pinging on the RabbitMQ image, the container that's running. And I have these 2 ports that are exposed, right? So now there will be folders like there will be the send folder here, there will be the receive folder here, and in send I'm going to have my send.go file, and in receive I'm going to have my receive.go file. Okay, and send is basically my producer, receive is my consumer, and that's the code that I'm going to write here. But before that, I just want to check if the Docker Compose works or not. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to say Docker Compose up, and if it works, okay, so I'm going to have to use sudo. So I'll just wait for the logs. Okay, so everything is working perfectly fine. So RabbitMQ is working, and that's what you really need. You really need that. So I'll just keep this running, and I'll open up a new terminal to work with the rest of the things, and I'll cd into send. Okay, and in the next window, I'm just going to cd into receive. Okay, so here you can see I have my receive.go file, and here I have my send.go file, because these are the 2 files that I want to run in 2 different terminal windows. So that's why I just kept it open like that, and I'll just keep RabbitMQ running. Okay, so now in the mod, right, at the project level, I want to add the RabbitMQ AQMP package, right? So we want to be able to interact with RabbitMQ, and Golang can't do that on its own. So we need to get something to be able to do that. But I think I'll just run go mod tidy at the end, and I'll just like keep it right now here in the code directly. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to say package main, okay, and receive.go, and I'm going to import a couple of things, like I'm going to import log, and I'm going to import AMQP, okay, which is basically the messaging protocol that I'm going to be using to be able to connect with RabbitMQ, and I'm going to get it from RabbitMQ AMQP 091 Golang. Okay, that's the one that I'm using. And here I'm going to have my func main for again, I apologize for like not being able to type that fast. So I have my func main for receive.go, and similarly for my send.go, I'm going to have something similar. I'm going to have package main, and import and func main. Okay, so I have a function for send as well. Now one thing that I need for sure is this, right, because I have to send messages from here, and I have to receive messages from there. And here in my func main, I'm going to first connect to the RabbitMQ server. So I'm going to say connection, or it could be an error. I'm going to use AMQP, and I'm going to use this function called the dial function, which helps me connect. And AMQP, okay, guest. So you know that the username and password is guest, so I'm just going to leverage that. So guest and guest username and password at the rate localhost, and 5672 is the port where. So I will always get confused between the port that Redis runs on and the port that RabbitMQ runs on. So if I'm using like RabbitMQ and Redis at the same time in a project, I go through a lot of confusion. But I think RabbitMQ, like Redis is like 5637 or something like that, and RabbitMQ is 5672. Okay, and then you have fail on error. And if there was an error while connecting to RabbitMQ, I'm just going to say fail to connect to RabbitMQ. All right. And obviously at the end of this function, just like we did with the Kafka, you just want to close the connection at the end. All right. And now we will create a channel. So we'll say connection.channel, and then we will either get the channel or we'll get an error. And if we have an error, we'll just say fail on error, and the error itself with a message failed to open a channel. And also at the end, you would want to close that channel as well. Okay, so we'll be sending messages on a particular channel. And now let's declare our queue for the RabbitMQ, and we'll do that with the help of the channel. So we'll say queue declare. Okay, and I'm going to say hello, false, false, false. So these are all values for the queueDeclare function, right? So this stands for durable, this stands for delete when unused. So I'm just saying false, false for the things I don't need. This false is for exclusive, like whether it's to be sent exclusively or not. This one is for no waiting. This one is for the arguments. So nil are the arguments. I'm sending nil here. And here I might get back the queue, or I might get my errors, and I will now handle the error. So I'll say the same line, fail on error. So I'll just copy and paste this line here. And here I'll like put out the error, and then I'll say fail to declare a queue. Okay. And now I'll just say context dot with timeout, context dot background, 5 seconds. I'll get the context, cancel. Okay. And obviously defer cancel. Now I'm going to create the body. So the body, in my case, of the message that I want to send on the queue, and then what I want my receiver to receive or my consumer to receive will be hello world with an exclamation. So that's the body. And now I want to call this function, which is going to help me publish to the queue. And this function is called publish with context. So this is why we needed context, because we want to publish with context. So we like publish with context. I'm going to pass in the context there, ctx. And I'm going to pass the queue.name for the routing key. And I'm going to pass false for mandatory and false for immediate. Right, so for all of these values which you're seeing me enter false for, you can check out these functions and see which ones you might want to set them as true, because this is like a basic project today. We are setting everything as false because it's not mandatory, not immediate, right? And you might get back an error here. And finally, after this, you're going to use AMQP dot publishing and content, right? Just like when you're calling an API, right? You have the content type and you have the body, right? When you're doing it in JSON or when you're using it with even like with something like Postman, it's very similar to that. When you're publishing something to something like RabbitMQ, you also have this like a content type, which in this case is text/plain, right? Just like you have like JSON, you know, when you're calling an API. And the body here is the body that we defined out here on top. That's the body that you'll send. All right. What do you want to do after this? You want to handle this error, right? Because you're trying to publish a message to the queue. And what if you're not able to do that? You want to then fail on error is what you want to do. And you want to say error, comma, failed to publish a message. And then you want to log out saying sent comma the body. So we'll just print out the body that was just sent. And now we've been using fail on error for a long time. We haven't defined that function yet. So I'm just going to go out of this and define the function fail on error, which takes an error of type error and message, right? So we've been always sending error and the message. And here we just handle our error in one place. So if error is not equal to nil, log dot fatal f and %s, and you just want to print out the message comma error. What we'll do is we'll just go through this code again very quickly just to see if not missing out anything. Yeah, so this looks a little wrong, right? Should have been closed with a small l. Yeah, everything looks okay to me for now, but you know what happens when we actually execute the code, we'll get like so many errors, and that's completely all right. That's why we use Golang and Rust, right? Golang and Rust is for people like me, you know, who don't want to think too much when they're typing code and want to fix a lot of issues on the when they compile everything and get a lot of errors. So it's for people, lazy people like me. That's why Golang and Rust were built. If everybody was smart, then we would be just using JavaScript, right? All right, so now we'll work on the next file, which is our receive.go file. All right, guys, so now we have to just think about how do you receive those messages from the queue. Now, before I start writing some code in the receive.go file, just want to define my inputs here. So it's going to be log context, and I'm going to have time. And the reason I had to do this is because I'm not using my regular extensions here, because as you remember, I'm inside a virtual box, so I don't have those extensions. So I had to do it manually. Anyways, now back to our receive.go file. So there are a few things that I definitely need, right? So I need my fail on error function, the same function here itself. So I'm going to copy and paste this here after func main, okay? And the steps that I'm going to have to follow will be the same. So I'll have to, what I did with send was I first connected to RabbitMQ, then I connected to the channel, then with the queue, with the exact queue, okay? And I'm going to have to do something very similar with receive as well. So let's copy the first two lines first, okay, and put them here. So I've connected to RabbitMQ, and I've also sent an error saying that, hey, I failed to connect to RabbitMQ in case I'm not able to do that. Then I'm going to also close this connection at the end, so I'm going to copy and paste that as well. Then I'm going to have this exact same code for the channel as well, right? So the RabbitMQ, the channel, and then the queue. And then now the third thing, final thing left is the queue. So I'm going to have to declare the queue as well, and along with this message, which is failed to declare with the queue. Okay, so I have a few things from which are common with send.go, but now we have to, here if you remember, we did publish with context, And here it's going to be different, right? It's going to be something different because we want to consume. So it's just going to be ch.consume, channel.consume. And we're going to consume the message. And what we'll get back is something called as messages, okay, after we've consumed it. And we want to, now we've received these messages, but we want to loop over these messages. So we want to do something for that. But before that, I'll just print out a fail on error for this particular error message. And I'll say error, comma, failed to register a consumer. Okay. And I'm going to create a channel forever. And this is going to have my go func. And I basically want to range over those messages, like I said. And I'm going to say log.printf received a message %s, d.body. All right, so yeah, so we've not defined what's going to go inside the consume. It's going to be similar to when we published with context. So here we're going to have the q.name. Okay, and then I'm going to have true for auto acknowledgement. That means saying that, okay, yes, I've received the message. So auto ack is true. And then false for exclusive, false for no local, false for no wait, and nil for the arguments. All right. And then finally out here, I just want to print out log.printf waiting for messages to exit, press Ctrl+C. All right. Yeah, that looks quite good. That looks complete. So we are receiving, as you saw, using this function, right? So everything is happening here, channel.consume, and then we're just looping over those messages, and we're printing, saying that the message has been received, and we're printing the body of that particular message. So D, like one by one, we'll get the messages in D. Print out D.body, and then we'll just say waiting for messages. We'll keep waiting for messages, subscribing to that channel forever. All right, and now we can try to run this code like one by one. But before that, I'll have to run go mod tidy, right? So I'll just say go mod tidy. So let's see if it's able to get the RabbitMQ AMQP package. Yeah, so it was able to do that. So I'm going to go into send again now. And I want to start go run send.go. Okay, like I said, we would receive some errors, and we did. So line 37, we have published with context and saying this is a problem, and I'm not sure why that is. And everything looks all right to me. Yeah, so I missed one small thing. It is in channel.publish with context, just like we had here, channel.consume, right? So you're publishing to the channel. Now let me try running it again. So it sent the message hello world to the queue. Now I want to receive it, and I'm going to say go run receive.go, and it's waiting for messages, and it's received a message hello world. So that's perfect. So I'm going to send it again, and I should receive another message hello world, and I can do this as many times as I want. So I can say okay, and I would have received all of these messages. So you can see the latency is like almost negligible. You can't blink your eyes as fast as RabbitMQ can transfer these messages. Okay, so this was our first little project with RabbitMQ. We built a very small consumer and a receiver. I showed you how the basics of RabbitMQ works. Now, before we go away, just want to tell you about my 6 AI plus Golang advanced project series. So I've built 26 hours of awesome detailed content in this course. The link for this course will be in the description of this video. And there's extremely detailed planning exercise for each project, well-documented code. Each line of code has been explained, and we're building important real-world high-value projects that can be turned into monetizable products. So we're building things like a Terraform Copilot, a Kubernetes AI assistant, a Telegram AI bot, Whisper API bot, a Discord AI bot, and a very powerful and complete terminal AI assistant. So if you're looking for a job or looking to upgrade yourself in 2024, you know AI is the center point of all discussions right now. If you have AI on your resume or on your portfolio, your chances of getting hired increase a hell lot. And what's a better way to do it than with Golang, building like production level AI applications which use OpenAI at the center, and then you build like really killer applications. And all companies are going to need this because all companies are now in the process of upgrading their tech stack, and everybody wants to use like OpenAI in the middle somewhere. So this will really prepare you for the future. So in case you're looking to upgrade yourself, this is the perfect course. All right, thank you so much for watching. Do share, do subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you want anything else, if you want me to cover anything else. RabbitMQ, I'll create more videos for RabbitMQ in the future.